Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're jumping into F1, the movie. Yeah, Formula One, the big one. This film's definitely stirred things up, lots of buzz, some pretty strong opinions flying around. So we've looked at a bunch of reviews, early critic takes the good, the bad, the kind of and mix that with some deeper analysis. Our goal here isn't just like a pros and cons list. We really want to dig into that core tension. How does this amazing visual spectacle stack up against the actual story they're telling? We want to help you understand what the critics are getting at, why there's such a split, and what it all means for you when you're deciding what to watch next.
Yeah, and it's interesting because, it's not just another racing movie. They were clearly aiming for something really ambitious with the immersion, and honestly, in some ways, they absolutely nailed it.
Okay, let's get into that, because everyone seems to agree on one thing, the spectacle. It's just, wow, that real-life F1 immersion you mentioned sounds amazing. Can you maybe break down how they pull that off? What makes it different from other racing films we've seen?
It's pretty wild, actually. This wasn't just clever CGI or set dressing. The production filmed during 9 actual Grand Prix race weekends.
9? Wow.
Yeah. So they were literally slotting their fictional story and racing right alongside the real F1 circus. Logistically, that's almost unheard of for a movie like this. And that's why you feel it, that grit, the G-forces. Brad Pitt and Damson Idris, they weren't just acting. They went through serious training, driving F2 cars, which are incredibly fast, mind you, at nearly 200 miles per hour, and they put them right into the real paddocks, mixing with the actual teams. That commitment, that's really the film's biggest strength, technically speaking.
So they're not just pretending to be in that world, they're actually in it. That must create a totally different vibe, a different intensity.
Oh, absolutely. It gives it this emotional and physical punch that really comes across, especially in IMAX. People are calling it an assault on the senses. The way the sound and visuals work together is just next level. You add Claudio Miranda's cinematography, which, people are calling a masterclass, and Hans Zimmer's score. You're basically getting something close to a VR experience. One review literally said, you feel you're strapped into the cockpit. And I think that's what really stands out. It uses that real-world access to turn watching a race into this really visceral, almost participatory thing for the audience, even if you don't know anything about F1. It's, a masterclass in immersion.
Assault on the senses.
Yeah.
That's quite a phrase. For someone maybe new to F1, what is it exactly that makes it feel so intense? Is there a risk? It's just too much?
It's the combination, really. Like, you've got these super realistic camera angles, like right down low to the track, mimicking what the driver sees. And there's the sound. Just raw engine noise, every gear change, the tires, it's all there. It's meant to be overwhelming in a way, but because F1 itself is so fast and precise, it ends up being thrilling rather than just chaotic. It's pure sensory stuff that, honestly, anyone can appreciate.
Okay, but even with all that amazing spectacle, a film needs a core, right? An emotional engine. And that seems to be Brad Pitt as Sonny Hayes. Critics are really pointing to his performance. How important is that emotional anchor here? Does he manage to lift up what some are calling a kind of familiar story? Or does that predictability still drag it down a bit?
That's a really good point. And Pitt's performance is crucial. He's 61 playing this role, and he brings this real weight, this gravitas and earthiness, as some put it. Reviewers are saying the role was perfect for him, that his presence really grounds the whole thing emotionally. You see phrases like tremendous work, believably strong performance. He adds this warmth, this authenticity. So even though the story itself might hit familiar beats, the mentor-rookie thing.
Right, the classic setup.
Exactly. Pitt's age and just his presence make it feel more relatable, more genuine. He definitely elevates it. You connect with Sonny's journey, even if you sort of feel like you know where it's headed.
Okay, so the visuals are stunning. Kid's great. But a movie isn't just sights and sounds, is it?
Yeah.
It needs to resonate. If the spectacle is the clear winner, how does the story itself hold up? Is it just, there to get us from one race to the next?
Yeah, this is where things get a bit more, let's say, divided. Lots of reviews mention that the plot sticks really closely to those standard sports movie formulas. The drill, the older, kind of beat-up mentor, the talented rookie, redemption through winning, all that stuff.
The tropes.
The tropes, exactly. Many critics called it predictable, though, to be fair. Some also said it was still entertaining. But it feels like a conscious choice, almost. When you invest so much in the spectacle, maybe the story becomes, less about surprising you and more about providing a familiar framework for those big moments.
A familiar track to race on, basically. Does that familiarity make things drag sometimes? especially between the races.
Yeah, that seems to be a common criticism. While the racing is electric, some reviewers felt the film stutters in parts. Empire magazine actually said something like, see it on the biggest screen you can, which kind of implies that, outside of those IMAX moments,
The story might not hold up as well.
Exactly. Second hour pacing lags was the phrase used. Another summary called it thrilling at first, then gradually losing momentum. So yeah, it sounds like the narrative maybe doesn't quite keep pace with the visuals.
And the dialogue. Is that helping or hurting?
Another contentious point. Some critics found parts of it overly explanatory, like almost condescendingly eye-rolling at times.
Oh dear.
Yeah, especially apparently when they use voiceovers to explain F1 stuff during the action. One review noted, kind of amusingly, that you're bound to block out those voiceovers once the racing sounds kick in.
Which isn't exactly a ringing endorsement for the writing.
Not really. It's almost like the film is saying, look, don't worry too much about the why, just feel the speed, If you want a deep F1 strategy, maybe read a book instead.
Right. It's a fascinating trade-off, isn't it? Prioritizing that pure sensory experience. And it does make you think, doesn't it? What matters more to you, the listener, in a movie? That immersive thrill ride, or a story that really digs deep and surprises you?
It's a definite tension. And you see that tension playing out really clearly in how different groups are reacting to the film.
Perfect timing. Because it really does seem like there are two distinct camps here. Who is this movie actually for? It feels like there's a real split.
You're spot on. On one hand, it has huge mainstream appeal. People who aren't necessarily big F1 fans seem to love it. It got an A cinema score, that's audiences grading it right after seeing it. And post-track showed something like 92% positive reactions. That's really strong. Critics generally agree it's super accessible, even if you know nothing about F1. It's kind of a gateway drug, Perfect for people who just like those big, loud, exciting blockbusters.
So drawing in new fans, that's got to be good news for the sport itself. But what about the diehards? The F1 purists, are they loving it just as much?
Not quite. F1 purists are wary, is probably putting it mildly. Reviews from motorsport-focused outlets have been, much more critical about the realism, the balance. For instance, the BBC gave it just 2 out of 5 stars. Ouch. Said it's not where you want to be. Road and Track loved the visuals, but basically hated the plot. Motorsport pointed out moments that were comedically unrealistic.
Wow, quite the contrast.
It really is, and it highlights that classic blockbuster problem, doesn't it? Can you make a film that satisfies the hardcore fans who demand total accuracy and the general audience just looking for a fun ride? Or do you kind of have to pick a lane?
Like picking a racing line. Yeah, that difference in reception is really telling. It makes you consider how much your own knowledge influences how you see it.
Absolutely. It pushes you to think, what do you value more in a sports film, minute accuracy or pure cinematic entertainment? It's funny, the more you know about F1, maybe the more you find to critique, whereas newcomers just get totally swept up in the thrill.
And beyond the talk, it actually did really well financially, right?
Yeah.
Which is obviously a big factor.
Oh, yeah. Huge. It pulled in $144 million internationally in its opening weekend alone. That's a massive number. And it was a big deal for Apple Original Films, apparently their first major commercial hit. People are calling it Top Gun on wheels, drawing that comparison to practical effects and intense action. And having Lewis Hamilton involved as an advisor definitely didn't hurt. He apparently played a big role in trying to keep the racing authentic and integrating the fictional team.
Okay, let's try and wrap this all up then. Thinking about everything we've discussed, what's the big takeaway from our deep dive into F1, the movie? What did it really nail and where did it maybe spin out?
Okay, so what it gets right, the technical side is just outstanding. That seamless blend of real F1 action, the speed, the sound, the visuals, it's a genuine sensory experience. It's designed to be felt. And Brad Pitt, he really anchors it, brings that warmth and authenticity, even if the character arc is a bit familiar. Plus, it's a fantastic entry point for new fans. Great for anyone who loves a big, bold blockbuster, not just F1 nerds. Now, where it falls short, mostly the story depth. After that initial rush, it can feel a bit repetitive, formulaic. The exposition, those explanations sometimes feel clunky, kind of pulling you out of the moment. And like we said, that mixed reaction from the purists, the inaccuracies, the Hollywood stuff, that's a definite drawback for some. The final verdict we found sums it up pretty well. F1. The movie earns solid praise for its thrilling visuals, immersive sound, and charismatic lead. It doesn't reinvent the genre, but if you seek a fun, full-throttle cinematic adventure, particularly in IMAX, you'll enjoy the ride. Basically, it's more escapism than deep thought. A really well-made machine that delivers awesome spectacle, even if the story's running on familiar fuel. And the quick scores kind of tell that story too. Like spectacle, 9/10. Acting, 8/10. Story, a 6/10. Overall, a 10.
That really does capture the core attention, doesn't it? Amazing technical achievement, maybe even setting a new standard for immersion, but paired with a story that plays it relatively safe.
Exactly. And thinking bigger picture, if this film, with its focus on sensory overload, is such a hit, does that tell us something about where blockbusters are headed? Is it increasingly about pure spectacle over complex storytelling? And what does that mean for how you, the viewer, connect with and judge movies from now on?
That's a really interesting question to leave things on. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into F1, the movie. Hopefully this chat gave you some food for thought about the film and maybe about cinema in general. Got any thoughts yourself? We'd love to hear them. Feel free to share your opinions or maybe your favorite moments from the movie in the comments below. And hey, if you enjoyed this, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives and reviews. Hit that bell icon too so you don't miss our next one. Until then, keep diving deep.